My lesson for you guys today is going to be about metaphors and similes. We're going to go through a definition of what a metaphor is. A metaphor is a figure of speech in which things are compared by stating that one thing is another thing. So I'm pretty much saying one thing is the same as something else. To state this another way, a metaphor says that a person, place, or thing is the same as another person, place, or thing. And now we'll look at some examples. So the clouds are cotton balls in the sky. I'm saying the clouds are compared to the cotton balls, but I'm saying they are those things. That bread is a hard rock. I'm comparing the bread to a rock, but I'm saying it is a rock. Her eyes were a blue ocean. I'm comparing her eyes to the ocean, but I'm saying that's what they were. And the final one, the light was a hot sun. I'm comparing the light to the sun, and I'm saying it was those things. Moving on to a simile. A simile is a figure of speech in which things are compared using the words like or as. So in both a metaphor and a simile, we are comparing. But in a metaphor, I'm saying something is something else, and in a simile, I'm using the words like or as to compare. I'm saying something is like something else. So a simile uses comparison to show a similarity without saying the two things are the same, because they're not. I'm just saying they are like that thing. So some examples. The surface of the water looked as smooth as glass. So not to be confused with a metaphor, I'm not saying the water is glass. I'm saying the water looked as smooth as glass. Her eyelashes flutter like a butterfly. Once again, not to be confused, I'm not saying her eyelashes are a butterfly. I'm saying they flutter like a butterfly. So notice a simile uses the words as and the words like. So just to go over the two again and compare the differences between a simile and metaphor, here's two examples that are the same wordage, but one is a metaphor and one is a simile. So the metaphor, her beautiful voice is music to my ears. And the simile, her beautiful voice is like music to my ears. In this example, the metaphor defines her voice as music to my ears, while the simile only compares her voice to the music. We're going to look at another example, and I'll give you a second to see if you can pick out the difference. So our metaphor is Judy is a silly clown, and our simile is Judy is as silly as a clown. So take a second and see if you can come up with the difference between the two. In the metaphor, I'm saying Julie is defined as a silly clown in this one, whereas in the second, she is compared to a silly clown. Here are some practice examples. We need to pick out whether it is a simile or a metaphor example, and then we have to identify the two things that are being compared. So I'll do the first one as an example. Maggie's teeth are as white as pearls. So looking at this, I need to decide, is it a metaphor or is it a simile? Well, I see that we're using the word are, so I'm saying something is something else, but I also see the word as. So since the word as is there, I must assume that it is a simile. Now, what two things are being compared? Well, I'm comparing Maggie's teeth to being as white as pearls. Let's move on to the next one. The small boat was a ping pong ball bouncing against the waves. In this example, I do not see a like or as, and I see the word was. So I'm saying something was something else. So I'm assuming it is a metaphor. And then what two things are being compared? I'm comparing the small boat to a ping pong ball bouncing against waves. His smile is the sunshine that brightens my day. Is this a metaphor or a simile? I will give you a second to think about that. And once you've figured that out, try to come up with the two things that are being compared. You should have come up with that it is a metaphor because we have the word is. We're saying something is something else. There is no words like or as. And we're saying his smile is being compared to the sunshine. I'll give you a second to try this example on your own. Come up whether it's a metaphor or a simile, and then come up with the two things that are being compared. I can see that word like, so it must be a simile. And I am comparing his eyes to the stars in the sky. His eyes twinkling to stars in the sky. Another example, the air conditioning makes the room feel like an icebox. So simile or metaphor, and then what is being compared. Once again, I can see that word like, so it must be a simile, and I'm comparing the air conditioning to an icebox. Ryan's hair is a thick mop. So since I have that word is, it must be a metaphor, and I'm comparing Ryan's hair to a mop. And that's the end of our practice examples. Thanks for listening.